Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and thanks for checking out today's video. I had a minor accident on my electric scooter, and when I say minor, I mean I broke my arm pretty bad. Hit like a little jump and didn't land right, and I ate shit and broke my arm. So I just got back from surgery and I wanted to finish up this video because I started it like a week ago and never finished it. So basically the car was having fueling issues with the new Cobb CAN Gateway Flex Fuel Kit. So I was having real bad fuel oscillations. I got a little clip of it here. It's a little shaky, so it's hard to see, but you can see how much the fuel pressure is jumping there. That is not good. It's not supposed to be doing that. So I reached out to my tuner, Clark Turner, sent him the data logs, and he said, well, yeah, it looks like we're having fueling issues. Check out your low pressure pump since you just replaced it. Make sure everything's good. So we pulled the low pressure pump back out of the car and investigated a little bit. All right, so checking this out, it looks like the regulator that I installed pushed itself out of the housing slightly. I was worried about this because this clip doesn't actually hold it in place. So the only thing holding it in is the seals, and I don't know if whatever happened. I'm gonna just re-lube it. I'm gonna pull it out, clean it, re-lube it, and stick it back in. And then this here, the O-ring was actually laying in there inside of this housing when I popped this out, and the included spacer cracked. I ended up coming up with a different solution that made a little more sense. I grabbed my soldering iron and I melted the plastic and welded it here at the tabs. So basically I just pulled that plastic across and welded it underneath there so that it's not going to pull down, and I think this will be okay. Then I welded on the front surface and the back surface, so that thing should not go anywhere. And if it does, for some reason, break at my welds, it's not going to pop off completely because it's just going to catch right there on the tab where it did before. But I don't think this is going anywhere. That feels very solid. I can't twist it or pull it or do anything. But if I ever have to break it out, I can just grab a razor blade and just slice down through where I welded, and that will open it back up to that I can pull the regulator back out. All right, so I went back to the old standard procedure on these. I took off the D-Torque spacer and I cut my OEM spacer and slid that down on, and then put 2 O-rings there. So I know that's not ideal, but I think something went wrong with having just that 1 O-ring. If we have any other issues, I'll still have my D-Torque spacer. I'll still have plenty of O-rings. We can change this setup if something doesn't work with this. After we did that, I realized that the low pressure pump was okay. We were still getting fuel oscillations after I tore it apart and messed with it and put it back together. So I reached out to him again, let him know I was still having those problems, and he told me to go ahead and get the Cobb fuel pressure kit. So the Cobb Flex fuel kit that I got did not come with the fuel pressure sensor, so I ordered one. They're like 250 bucks. I set that all up, so I'll show you how I did that quick. So you can order one of the new Cobb Flex kits that already comes with this, which is the fuel pressure sensor. And all it does is it wires into the gateway, and then it connects to the line coming off from the low pressure pump. And what that will allow you to do is check the low pressure fuel. And what you saw on the access port when I was actually showing you guys that was from the high pressure pump. So that reading you're seeing on the access port is from the high pressure pump. So this will allow us to isolate and see the fuel pressure of just the low pressure pump coming off the line. So if I pop the hood, we have our fuel lines coming up here from the low pressure pump, and then it goes down to the ethanol content sensor and then comes back up to the intake manifold. So this pressure in this line right here is basically what is coming from the low pressure pump, and then this goes to the high pressure pump and it cranks up the pressure even more. So what we have to do is pretty simple. We got to pull that same relay we did to install this, which is just your fuel pump fuse, your 15 amp fuse right there. We'll pull that out, and then we'll start the car, let it die, and then there should be way less pressure or no pressure in the lines, and then we can just disconnect this, and then we'll just install this adapter, plug the fuel line back in, and then run our wire over and plug it into sensor 2 on the CAN gateway, and then we'll have Clark update our map, so that, because this thing will actually throw a check engine light. Funny enough, the new CAN gateway, the first map Clark sent me, he thought I actually had the sensor kit, and I was getting a check engine light for the Cobb CAN gateway sensor, and I was like, wait, what? So this will actually give you a check engine light for, like, Cobb has their own codes that can be thrown and cause a check engine light with this, which is actually kind of cool, because then if something happens, you know. And my car was like in a limp mode and it would not go out of the driveway. I was like, what is going on? I was freaking out. So we just had the map calibrated for the pressure sensor, so it wasn't reading any pressure. It was kind of in panic mode, through a check engine light, went into limp mode. But now we have the sensor, so we have to update the map, and he'll send me over a new map for that sensor so that we have it all correct. So to prep for the install, all we need to do is find our adapter here, and this is going to have a threaded insert. We can unthread that insert and remove it from the adapter, and that's where our sensor will thread into. So we have a little bit of thread sealant from Loctite in the package. We're just gonna do a nice dab all around. Then we can start to thread that into the adapter. Now this should get threaded to 7 foot-pounds. All right, now with that all set, we can get our flathead and just pry up on that fuel line. Again, I'm gonna use my rag like I did the first time to prevent any fuel from going all over the place. I'm just gonna kind of tuck it in there. Yep, we had a little bit of pressure in there. Not a whole lot, but just enough. That would have kind of made a mess if we didn't have that ready. Again, I always try and wear gloves when messing with fuel because it'll soak into your fingers and it stinks and it's hard to get it out. All right, now our new adapter is simply going to slide on, and that's it. It's clipped in place. And then we can spin this around kind of however we want to. Let me just squeeze this, pop it off, reinstall it this way. I'm going to remove this clip and do it that way. So there we have it. That's a much better fit now. Then we'll take our fuel line, slide it on, clip it in place, and that's it. That is our adapter. Now we just plug in our plug, run our wire over to the cam gateway. Yeah, I hope this doesn't break. Okay. I'm just going to pop this up, and I'm going to feed the line across the intake manifold, and we'll just zip tie it probably to this vacuum line. So all we have to do is grab our connector, plug it in. Now that I'm actually done messing with the fuel, I took my gloves off because I hate wearing gloves. So we're just going to take one of these zip ties, zip tie this line here. Now on this side, I have the wire running underneath the intake manifold. It's coming back up through here. I'm just going to finish running it back across. All right, guys, last look. We have this installed. You can see it just runs down, across, over and under, all around, down here, and then up. You can just run that basically any way you want. If you wanted to, there's enough wire. If you wanted to, you could have ran it down and around the firewall like this wire here is ran. I may change that location because there's so much extra wire bunched up down there. I may just spin that around. The only issue with when this was spun around was I feel like it would bounce off of the intercooler bracket there. So that's the only other thing that I was worried about. So now when the car is running, you'll see the low pressure pump here and the high pressure pump down here. So if I go ahead and start the car up, you can see here that that is up to 2,000 PSI, and this one is sitting around 60, 70 PSI. Once the idle cuts down, this should level around like 50 to 60 PSI, and this will level down to around like 400 to 600 PSI idle. Now I think Clark told me that the 2015 WRXs had problems with the high pressure pump, but all other WRXs should be capable. It's got a Hitachi fuel pump that is good for 100% ethanol. So the conclusion was that the high pressure pump had some issues, maybe something blocking the screen in there or something, and because it takes like 40% more ethanol flow than it does gasoline to make the same amount of power, the ethanol is making the pump work harder and thus causing more issues because something's going on with the pump. So I'm going to order a new high pressure pump. It'll be a little bit till we get that installed, obviously. But we're going to order that. We're going to get the car, well, the car's already fully tuned. It's already done. But I have some new parts. I had some parts come in from Parent Performance. They sent me out some stuff. And I also got the Extreme One-Line Store that sent me out the exhaust and the duckbill trunk spoiler behind me. They actually just sent me out a downpipe. So we're going to look into retuning the car on the downpipe. I'm excited for that, or the J-pipe, whatever you want to call it. Test that out. I already got it out of the box. It looks really great. I'll show you guys that in another video. But this is all I have the energy to make today, so I'm going to go ahead and end today's video there. We did find the fueling issues on the car, and we got that taken care of. So once I get the new high pressure pump, we will get that in, and hopefully the car will be running good after that. And then we can call it a day and move on to the next thing. But thanks for checking out today's video, guys. I'll see you in the next one.